Hey everybody, welcome to secretsofthebriarpatch.com. Today I want to talk about something that I like to call my mood meter. So I have noticed a pattern of something that I do. And now that I've noticed this pattern, I'm quick to catch things and not get into the pattern before they get out of control. I noticed that maybe, for example, my relationship. I would notice that maybe my husband was doing things that were bothering me, or I felt like he didn't like me as well. My self-esteem would go down and I would be convinced that he just wasn't happy with our relationship, and I would begin to think these things in my mind. And by the time I would be bothered enough by them that I felt like I needed to take care of them, I would bring them to my husband's attention and he would be like, well, no, I'm fine. Like I didn't notice there was any problems, and he's a saint and is just always like, what can I do to help? That's the pattern that I noticed. It would happen with my husband, it would happen with my kids, different things in my life where I would start to feel like things are falling apart and I'm noticing clues in my life and I've really got to take care of them. And every time I brought them up, it was like, oh, well, I was the only one that was noticing the problem. What it was is I was having moments of low self-esteem where I felt sure that people weren't happy with me, that my relationship was falling apart, that I had done something wrong. And that was a pattern that I caught because of my mood meter. So let me talk about what a mood meter is. That's the name that I've given it. So here is a little calendar. And I love little teeny ones like this, but you could use a big one, you could use your day planner, you could use your phone, whatever you want to use. So at the end of the day, I'll go ahead and record how my day went and on a scale of 1 to 10. What I would call the red zone is about a 0 to a 1. So a 0 to a 1 would be no desire to live. My day was filled with tears, or in bed, highly non-functional. This is a red zone because you don't want to have very many days like this. If you have too many days that are in the red zone, you really need to go see a doctor and get some help elsewhere. I might even venture to say if you have any days that are in the red zone, that you should get help. I'm not a healthcare professional, let me just remind you of that. This is just my personal opinion. Number 2 to a 3 would probably be like a black hole day. You're really at the bottom of the roller coaster. Things are not doing very well. So they would be depression getting in the way of your daily life. It's preventing you from doing your normal daily tasks, maybe showering, getting ready for the day, taking care of your kids, going to work, that kind of thing. A 4 to a 5, this would be moody and maybe just kind of feeling crummy. But you could say 5 is just like, you don't feel horrible and you don't feel amazing. 5 could just be right in the middle. You do it the way that it makes the most sense for you, because it has to make sense for you so that you can chart it right on your calendar. 6 to 7 would be hopeful. You're hopeful for the future. Life is looking up. You're looking on the bright side of things most of the time. You're aware of the depression that you've had in the past possibly, but you don't feel like you're in that hole. 8 to 9 would probably be cheerful. So overall good, cheerful, energetic. This is where I expect most people to be most of the time. Then a number 10 would be very happy and what I would call euphoric. It's okay to have moments like this, especially if it's situational. If there's things around you that are creating happiness, that things are just doing really well, maybe you're on vacation, that kind of thing. But to be euphoric or to bounce from low to high, back and forth, is another reason why you would want to share this with your doctor. One of the things I also want to talk about is sometimes I've noticed, but maybe I'll have a day that's a 5 and the next day my morning is really bad and starts out not so great, and lunchtime isn't great, but maybe I take a nap or I have a good lunch or I get out of the house and find some things that I enjoy, and the rest of the day it kind of pulls me out of that slump and the rest of the day is good. How do I chart a day like that? Do I just say right in the middle? So what I started doing is I would write a 4 and then I would put a slash right through the middle of that day, and then I would write, a 7, something like that. So that when I look back on it, I can see, oh, the first half of my day, not so great. The last half of my day, pretty good. I like to look back at my mood meter because sometimes when I feel like, hey, using the example of, my relationship with my husband, if I feel like things are really bad and I look back at this and I realize it really has only been the last 2 or 3 days. Last week I actually had a lot of really good days, and the week before that I did too. And I think back on those days and I think what I did during those days, and I think to myself, they weren't bad, and I wasn't concerned about the things that I'm currently concerned about. This has been so helpful for me. It's another good way to keep track of, for us women, if our hormones are changing, if we're having low days that have to do with our cycle. That can be really, really good. Take this to the doctor's office with you, especially if you're having some of those really bad days. But for those of us who get on medication, I totally am an advocate for medication if you need to go there, because I certainly did. This can be really good for your doctor too. It can help him know if you need your dose upped, if it needs to be lowered. If you're thinking that maybe you want to get off medication, he can look at things and say, okay, that's great, you've been doing good for this amount of time. I had a doctor tell me that he would like me to not have any low lows for 3 to 6 months before I even think about getting off of any of my medication or lowering my dose. Because sometimes when we get on medication, we have these moments where we're like, oh, I'm feeling good, I'm doing great, I think I can get off the medication. But really the reason that you're feeling good and you're not having a hard time is because the medication is doing what you need it to. So getting off of the medication would in fact be a bad thing. But if you can stay at a really good place on a regular basis on your medication, it might be a good time to talk to your doctor about lowering your medication because things are going well and maybe you could handle it with a lower dose or maybe off of medication. But those are the things that you take to your doctor and you have record of it. Anyways, that is one of my secrets of the Briar Patch, and I hope that you guys can benefit from it.